Hey friends, it's Lisa with a love note for March 9th. So the guides just came in a minute ago. Sometimes when they want me to share a message that they know I'm probably going to argue with, I'll wait until the end of the day to come in when I'm just too tired to argue and put up less of a fight. And so that's kind of this message today. The message is around trust and around believing and around allowing our faith to be stronger than our fear, and to not putting the divine in a box and deciding that miracles only happen a certain way, or that grace only moves according to a certain set of preconceived notions in our mind. And this can be kind of uncomfortable for some folks, this idea of truly believing that all will be well, even if you don't know how that looks yet, even if you don't know how that can be. But then also not attaching to the outcome of how that all can be well plays out. Recently, in my meditations or in my journaling or prayers or whatever, I will get guidance to do things that make me incredibly uncomfortable. And it tends to be sharing information. And so, I got this list of 17 people that they're like, hey, we need you to go talk to these folks and share this information. And it's really important and we need you to do this. I'm like, I can't do that. They're going to think I'm batshit crazy. I can't go have these conversations with these folks. Some of the people I had known since childhood, some of the people I had actually never met in person. And I had to trust that having these conversations would be okay. Some of you were on the receiving end of those conversations and may have thought I was batshit crazy, but at least you had the grace to be kind to my face. I don't know. But I will honestly say that when I get guidance like that and encouragement and instructions to reach out to folks, it is, my ego can immediately jump in and go, oh God, that feels really scary. But then I have to get out of the way and trust that the other person will receive it how they receive it, and I need to not attach to that outcome. And so in some of these conversations, the first one I had, it was amazing because I really thought this person was, and the information that I needed to share with them, that this would not go well. And it was so funny because by the end of the conversation, he was like, oh my God, for the first time in my whole life, things finally make sense. This makes more sense to me than anything that I've understood before. And so I have to trust that there's a reason that I'm being encouraged to share information with the people I'm being encouraged to share it with, and that they'll know what their reason is on the other end. The same can be true. Sometimes I'll get guidance to reach out in regards to energy healing. Now, when I talk about energy healing, I believe we all have the capacity to hold space or be conduits for divine energy to flow through us and to have a healing effect on others. I don't consider myself a healer. I consider myself a conduit and am willing to be in that role. It's not something that I do professionally. It's certainly not something that I market, but there will be times when in prayer meditation, I get strong urgings to reach out to people. And this isn't coming from me, but to reach out with the recognition that holding that healing space, that being willing to be a conduit for grace can be beneficial to the person receiving. And so again, in those instances, it's a matter of having to step away from attachment to that outcome. It's interesting because so often, and this doesn't happen a whole lot for me. I can think of 3 times in particular recently where, either the party on the other end that I reached out to either didn't respond at all, or their response back was, I've prayed about this and God's taking care of me. So thanks, but no thanks, because, I've prayed and put it in God's hands and God's got this. And what the guides came in and said today is that so often it's those of us who walk around who might not look like, who might not look like we're doing God's work necessarily, are the conduits. And for us to be willing to be open to that. You know, it's like that story of, I don't know, there was some story that circulated after like a hurricane in New Orleans, and a guy sitting on the rooftop and you know, praying to God, save me, rescue me, rescue me. And a boat came by to pick him up, and he said, no, I'm praying to God, God's gonna rescue me, go on, go on. And then the next thing, a helicopter comes in and tries to rescue him. The guy's like, no, I've prayed to God, God's got this, you know, go on, God's going to save me. And then finally he gets to heaven, he's like, God, why didn't you save me? And God's like, who do you think sent the boat? Who do you think sent the helicopter? You know, I was trying. Why didn't you give me a chance? And think about in your own life when you've maybe hoped for some kind of divine intervention, when you've prayed for a miracle, when you've hoped for healing and thought that it had to look a certain way. And if it didn't fit within that box, that maybe you weren't open to the possibility of it looking any other way. And what the guides are asking today is that we basically blow up the box, you know, and stop thinking that miracles and divine energy and healing and all this have to look any particular way. That often it's the normal people walking around who are at least open to being divine conduits. That's how the divine often works. We're here in 3D. The divine's not. Often they need a partner. They need us to co-create and collaborate. You know, God needs us to collaborate with God to often bring that energy or hold the space for that energy with people here. That we get to be those conduits, not just me, all of us can be those conduits when we actually open up and listen and are willing to take action. Elena, I see you. Thank you. You're very kind. And I know that you're a conduit for grace and that you work that grace in so many ways. And I'm grateful to you for that. So just think about it. You know, we'll often hear God works in mysterious ways. And I truly believe that that's true. But do we put those mysterious ways in a recognizable box and only expect for God's mysterious ways to look a certain way, to be a certain thing, to show up in a certain aspect? And if so, we're putting God in a box? I don't know. It seems to me God's bigger than that. You know, hey, Anita, I'm glad to see you. So think about that in your own life. My guess is you've been a conduit for the divine for others in the past. And it might be that there have been people who have tried to be a conduit for grace and a conduit for the divine in your life. And have there been instances where you've shut the door on that because they didn't look a certain way, the whole scenario didn't fit, some way that you'd created in your head that grace has to work to be in alignment maybe with your ideology, to be in alignment with what you hear from the pulpit, to be in alignment with whatever. You know, the other day I was sitting in meditation and these two energies came at me, and these were the energies of souls who had passed over. And one of the energies I'd actually worked with in the past, and I was kind of familiar with that energy. And the other energy came, it was just like this firecracker of energy. I was like, oh gosh, I know you. And, you know, they were working together to get this message to me to reach out about a healing opportunity with someone who was very, 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 very close to their heart. And they were really pushing me to do this. And I'm like, oh, man. I knew that if I reached out, I didn't know. I had to not attach to that outcome. And so, you know, it's those situations where just the willingness to reach out and not attach to the outcome. They might still be thinking I'm nuts. I didn't hear back. So, you know, that's and that's okay. That's okay. We all have free will. We don't have to believe anything. We don't have to trust other people. You know, we can choose to be open, or we can choose, you know, this doesn't fit in within the box of what I think is appropriate. Therefore, you know, I'm not going to be open to it. That's all cool. It's all free will. We all get that choice, and that's fine. But I think what the guides were trying to encourage today is that when we broaden our perspective, when we broaden our horizons of what we will allow into our lives, when we open up and decide that grace doesn't have to look a certain way, that miracles don't have to come through, angels coming down from on high, or Jesus showing up in the room or whatever, that it actually opens up the door for the divine, for God, for whomever you believe in, to work with us in a whole lot of different expanded sort of ways. There are people walking this earth right now who know that their purpose on this planet is to be that kind of a conduit for the divine, and just hoping that other people will be open to that. And so we can trust and we can believe, we can pray and we can ask for miracles, but then we need to make sure we're not shutting the door in Grace's face, if it comes knocking. And so that was really the message for today, is trust and believe, allow your faith to be bigger than your fears. When you know that you're loved, all of that comes a lot easier. When you know that the divine has your back, when you know that you can trust and believe and have faith in that love, in that divine, then miracles can start showing up in a whole lot of different ways. Grace can start flowing to you in a whole lot of different ways. We just have to be open to allowing it in. And so there you go. That's your love note for today. I hope you have a fantastic night, and I will see you tomorrow. Oh, hey, before I go, though, I'm seeing Elena says, yes, I had the same download today. Thank you. Yes, we're always getting what we want and need, but don't see it because it doesn't look a certain way. Marcy saying it's uncanny how in sync we are right now. It's like I'm writing in my journal, and then you start talking about what I was just saying. That's been happening so much with people recently. They'll be having, getting divine guidance or writing in their journals, or, messages coming to them. I'll be doing that. Other people who do videos on Facebook are doing that. And it's like there's such a common theme oftentimes, similar information coming to many of us all at the same time. And that to me means that it's something relevant. It's something meaningful that we do need to be paying attention to. And so with that, I just hope that for those of you who watch these love notes, first of all, thank you. I'm really, really grateful that you tune in, that you watch, that you listen. And I think the other thing is that when we can take the messages and actually see how they can fit in our lives, that's when it becomes all that much more meaningful. And, then it's not just entertainment, but it's actually an opportunity to grow even deeper in our relationship with our own soul, or even deeper in our relationship with the divine. And that's really the whole point of the love notes, to love ourselves enough to know that we are loved always, and to be willing to deepen that love that we have for ourselves by actually operating through our soul in such a way that we can also pay that love forward in much more significant and grace-filled ways. So I love you, and I hope you have a fantastic night. I'll see you tomorrow.